What's going on, YouTube? This is SlapHappyGreen here, coming at you like the back of the hand, because we are back, because it is time for ESL 1 Cologne 2016, and as you guys can see on the screen in front of you, we've got our legends, we've got our challengers, I've got that backwards, we've got our legends, we've got our challengers right down below, here, down, something like that, because I think my camera's inverted, but it doesn't matter because we are back for the next major championship that will be taking place in Cologne, Germany. Obviously, we've got some of the same old faces that we had last major in Columbus, and we've got some new faces as well, including a new branding for our former champions. That's right, SK Gaming has taken over Luminosity's Gaming's roster effective as of July 1st, which is just a couple days ago. So it is SK playing as the defending champions of this major, not Luminosity. Same roster, different company. Other than that, running out our legends, we've got Navi, Fnatic, Astralis, Virtus Pro, Team Liquid, a very revamped, in my opinion, Team Liquid, and a slightly declining, in my opinion, CLG, and then, of course, the Ninjas in Pajamas there, who I had not yet mentioned. For challengers, we've got some old faces from the last major, and we've got some new faces as well. Starting with the old faces, we've got Mousesports, FaZe, G2, Gambit, Flipside, and Envious. Of course, that includes two former Legend teams in, was it FaZe and Envious, or was it G2 and Envious? I know two of those three, at least, were Legends going into the last tournament. Of course, Envious being the defending champions who got bounced on day 2, going 0-2 out the door. As far as new faces, we've got Dignitas, who have qualified for previous majors, but did not qualify for Columbus and have a very revamped roster that includes Cajun B, who they traded from Astralis for KRB. And then rounding out the Challenger Series, we've got Optic Gaming, the Canadian roster, well, the mostly Canadian roster, including 3 Canadians, 1 American, and a Spaniard. Mixwell, their new opera, who they picked up after dropping Shazam. For me, it's a point of pride to see Optic Gaming here in the major. I've been following a lot of these guys, Stanislaw, Naf, Fly, Dabs, Rush, and back when they had Shazam, back when they were recently dropped from a sponsor, shortly before they became Conquest Gaming, to think that, like, probably less than a year ago, these guys were basically at the bottom of everybody's roster. Nobody was really paying them too much attention. Just dropped by their sponsor at the time. To think that less than a year later they would be here, qualified and competing for a major. Huge shout out to those boys. Congrats on making it this far. Looking forward to seeing you guys go a little bit farther though. I hope you can. I think they can. It's just a little bit about luck of the draw. Unfortunately, I was not able to find a graphic for the groups for this major, so what we're going to do in this video as we kind of pre-up to the major that starts tomorrow, we're going to go over the groups, who I think's got the best odds to come out of each group, who I think is the most likely underdog in each group, and based off of how teams are playing right now, who I think will be the most likely winner of the Cologne 2016 major. So let me just kind of take a quick look at groups. We're going to start with Group A, which is Astralis, Counterlogic Gaming, Gambit, and Team Dignitas. Now, if you guys have not been keeping up with what's going on with these teams, like I mentioned in the opening there, Astralis and Team Dignitas did a trade a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month and a half, something like that, where Astralis sent Cajun B to Team Dignitas in exchange for KRB. I think this was a good trade for both teams, as it kind of gave Astralis a little bit of new blood. KRB is a good player, I think he'd be a good fit, and they've been playing well since. Nothing too spectacular, I think. Nothing too spectacular, I think, but it should be interesting to see what they can do in their first major after the trade. And in fact, their first match is against Dignitas on day 1. I think they're actually the opening match too. And yes, it was KGB that they traded. But I believe this should be interesting because last match between these two, Dignitas actually won it back at Malmo shortly after Columbus. 19-6 and a best of 1 on cash. So you never know. It should be a good match. Should be an interesting match. Right now, odds are at 85-15 in favor of Astralis, but we still got a lot of time before the game, and anything can happen. Both these teams seem to be playing well as of late. Like I said, Astralis was looking good after the trade. KRB was seeming to play well. As far as Team Dignitas goes, of course they had to qualify in order to get here. They looked like they were playing well. Hopefully that continues in the major, even if they can't pick up a win against their Danish rivals early. Other bracket, we've got Counterlogic Gaming. Now again, if you are not keeping up to date with teams in professional CSGO, there was a little bit of a trade between Counterlogic Gaming and Team Liquid that saw Kusta head to Counterlogic Gaming, head to CLG, and in return, Team Liquid received JDM. In my opinion, I think this is a trade that heavily favors Team Liquid. JDM is just 100% a better offer than Kusta. Maybe not necessarily a better player, because JDM is not really known for being very good with rifles, whereas Kusta doesn't necessarily have to have an op in his hands in order to be able to be an impact in the round. However, overall, I do think that JDM is still a better player, and that this really gives Team Liquid something that they were missing, and just kind of, we'll see how this fits with Counterlogic Gaming. I don't know how many games they've played since the trade, and I don't know how well they've been doing since. I just want to see CLG. Just show me CLG. Yeah, their last match was in E-League Season 1, best of 3 against Astralis, where they went out 2-1 to Astralis. They beat SK's former lineup, went 1-1 against NRG. I don't know. I look at the lineup right now. I look at last couple of matches. I don't know if this is necessarily a team that's going to be firing in on all cylinders coming into this major, which leaves me kind of worried for their chances of retaining their legend status and making it out. And then, of course, you talk about Gambit Gaming. Gambit Gaming, first major, last major at Columbus. Played very well. Wasn't able to upset any teams, though. Went out early. Looked strong in the qualifier. And now they're back in what, in my opinion, is probably the weakest group here. I think Astralis is basically a guarantee to get out of this group. I think Gambit Gaming is most likely to take second place here. I think they're a better team right now than Counterlogic, which leaves it kind of, are they better than Dignitas? And I think these two teams, if they go up against one another, will play a very good match, and it's just a question of how that matches up, because how I basically see most likely Group A going, I think we've got Astralis and Gambit winning day 1. Astralis beats Gambit day 2, most likely. I still think Gambit, though, would have a chance to upset Astralis. I think that's definitely potential. I think they definitely have the skill and the talent available to them to do so, especially in a best of 1 situation like that would be. If not, they go down to the lower bracket and they face the winner of Team Dignitas versus Counterlogic Gaming. Now, of course, this is assuming Astralis makes it past Dignitas on day 1, which I think is the most likely scenario. I don't think it's impossible for Dignitas to win that match, but I think it's more likely that Astralis will win. I think Astralis is just the stronger team overall. So that basically becomes, out of the two remaining teams, Dignitas and Counterlogic, which one is most likely to be facing Gambit on day 3 in the best of 3 to decide second place. In my opinion, I think between Dignitas and Counterlogic Gaming, as far as team strengths go right now, I would actually really want to lean towards Team Dignitas, which means we could kind of see sort of similar to an NBA situation, a team that maybe overachieved at the previous major, going out early, maybe even 0-2 in the group stages of the following major. Just haven't seen enough good stuff out of them in the last while since the major to really have any kind of faith and belief in CounterLogic's ability, especially since they've traded away their star opper in JDM. I mean, you've got a couple of guys there that can still do good work. They got Tarek, they got Cutler, they got Hayes, but it's just a question of, is there too much of a void left in the difference in the skill set between Kusta and JDM to make up for that? So just to kind of recap Group A, I think Chalice is our most likely first place finisher. Gambit is our most likely second place finisher. I think they even have a chance to go first if they can upset Chalice. I don't think it would be a huge upset if they beat CounterLogic. And then our dark horse in this group, I think, is Team Dignitas. I think out of these 4 teams, CLG is definitely the weakest of the 4, despite the fact they are one of the returning Legends teams. For Group B, we got our Canadian team, Optic Gaming, in here. We've also got Navi, our defending semi-finalists, the Ninja in Pajamas, and Flipside Tactics. Now this, of course, should be a really interesting matchup because, of course, Navi was the team that eliminated NIP in the playoffs in Columbus. So these two could go against one another in a best of 1 very early, especially if both teams end up winning their day 1 matches. Navi is going up against Flipside. I don't really see an upset potential there. Flipside, I do think Flipside is a decent team, but I do not think that they have what it takes to take down Navi. Could come up with something special in a best of 1, but find it highly unlikely. On the other side of the coin, we've got NIP going up against Optic Gaming. I want to cheer my heart out for Optic Gaming here, but realistically, this is a game that NIP should win. They've been playing really well. They started it in the last major at Columbus, and they carried it through. That they've been on a bit of a tear. They will have their full lineup in this major. No issues with Pyth and visas, so Threat will not be having to sub in. So this is a full-strength NIP team that should be able to do some good damage in this tournament. So I think most likely day 1 we're going to see Navi and NIP winning, setting up a winner's bracket of Navi versus NIP and a loser's bracket of Flipside versus Optic. I think that's kind of going to mirror how our bracket is going to look coming out of Group B into the playoffs. I think Navi and NIP are most likely 2 teams. Full lineup intact. It should be interesting to see if NIP can sort of get a little bit of revenge on Navi and send them into the losers half of the bracket in the group. But one of those 2 teams is going to be first place, and I think it's more likely to see an upset if NIP goes down to lower brackets. They seem to come up with a little bit of magic every major, but I think right now, although both teams are playing well, you look at the 2 remaining teams, you look at Flipside, you look at Optic, one of these teams I think is more likely to upset an NIP team in the groups than a Navi team in the groups, because if you look at the group stage last major, Navi was just on a tear. They looked unstoppable. NIP, even though it was with the sub, was still able to make it through, but there were some iffy moments, and it wasn't just the fact that Threat was in the lineup instead of Pyth, but they have looked good since the last major, but where's upset potential here? So I think Navi and Ninjas in Pajamas are most likely top 2 teams. As far as a dark horse here, I don't really see it. It's not anything against Optic and Flipside Gaming. I think they're both 2 very good tier 2, tier 3-ish teams. But if I had to pick a dark horse, I hate to say it, but I would probably pick Flipside. And again, that's nothing against Optic, but Flipside just has a little bit more major experience. It would probably be a little bit better equipped to handle the kind of pressure that you would be seeing going up against these teams on LAN. Um, maybe just not the best grouping that Optic Gaming could have gotten. But you know what? I think if they manage to find a way to upset NIP day 1, who knows what happens day 2, who knows what happens day 3 with these guys. I honestly think the sky's the limit with those guys, but maybe just not their time yet. Group C, which is a good group in itself. We've got former semi-finalist Team Liquid, previous champions, not of the last major, but the major before, in Team Envious. And then we've got Virtus Pro and Mouse Sports rounding out Group C. Day 1 matchups, Team Liquid versus Team Envious. Honestly don't know what to think of this. We've only seen Team Liquid with one tournament, which was the ECS Season 1 Finals, since acquiring JDM and playing again with Simple, who will be subbing in as the 5th for this tournament. This is going to be Simple's last tournament with Team Liquid. So I want to see good things from them. I think they are the most likely first place finisher of this group. But you look at the other half of the bracket, you look at Virtus Pro versus Mouse Sports. Virtus Pro, a team that's had its ups and downs, especially since Columbus. It was on a huge Virtus Pro was on a huge down streak going into Columbus. Pulled it together at the LAN, managed to get legend status again. Managed to look really good at the major. I've had up and down tournaments and games since, including at E-League, where they managed to make it to the semifinals, but again, issues. Another good LAN performance, but it's tough. It's really tough to see where these guys are as a team. I would expect them to beat Mouse Sports on day 1, and again, that's nothing against Mouse Sports. It's just that too much of Mouse Sports is just too much the Nico show, and you go up against a team that's as experienced and as familiar with one another as Virtus Pro is. You need a team performance. It can't be Nico. If Mouse Sports wants to win that day 1 matchup, someone else in the lineup has to step up huge. And you know what? It could be Chris J, pushing a little bit harder than he usually does. It could be a lot of players on that team. They have the potential to do it, but they need to bring it out in these games. But you look at a team like Virtus Pro, proven on LAN, always seems to bring their best game to LAN. I would look for Virtus Pro to win here over Mouse Sports, and then Team Liquid over Envious. That is kind of finding its way. They did manage to requalify, but you gotta wonder exactly how much gas they do have in the tank. And I think that's basically a representation of who our 2 will be. Virtus Pro and Liquid, I think those are the most 2 teams likely to get out of the group. As far as a dark horse, I want to say Mouse Sports, because again, Mouse Sports does have the potential to win games against any of these teams. They usually have a consistent player in Nico, but if they actually want to upset some of these teams, they actually want to make it through to the Legends stage, to the playoffs, someone else has to step up in more than one game, in more than one map. They need someone else helping him out there. So again, I think it's another early exit for Envious. I think this is just too much strength in Liquid and too much LAN experience in Virtus Pro for Envious to make it out of groups this time around again. So this brings us to our last group. Now, if you guys have been keeping track, you might already know who our last 4 teams are. And I know we got Euro Cup going on overseas right now. I don't pay attention to soccer, but I know a lot of people like to reference the group of death in soccer. I don't know if that's World Cup, I don't know if that's Euro Cup, but when I saw this draw for this group after the qualifier just a couple weeks ago, the first thing that came to my mind as I saw these group drawings was group of death. And with the way G2's been playing in the last month or so since the last major, with the way Luminosity's been playing the last month or so, kind of a little bit on the down, I really look at this final group, which is SK Gaming, former Luminosity, Fnatic, which now has Olafmeister back, a FaZe Clan team that has been looking okay since adding Kiyoshima, and like I said, a resurgent G2 esports that just took the ECS Season 1 Finals. This is going to be the hardest group to predict, because any of these 4 teams, I think, could come out of this group. I mean, you look at the day 1 matchups, SK Gaming versus G2 Esports. That's a rematch of the ECS Season 1 finals. The grand finals for that tournament was SK versus G2, and G2 2-0'd Luminosity Gaming, the now SK Gaming. So, going into this first game, will G2 be able to continue that momentum and take another map up of SK? Or will SK get a little bit of revenge for the tournament before and send G2 into the loser's bracket with a chance to, again, not even make it out of groups? Then you look at the other side of the coin. You got Fnatic, you got FaZe Clan. They got Olofmeister back in time for E-League, and they looked great for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then the last tournament in ECS, they kind of faltered a little bit towards the end, again against G2. And with FaZe being a little bit stronger, playing-wise, since they added Kiyoshima, perhaps FaZe will be able to sneak something in there, surprise Fnatic on day 1, and we could quite honestly see any of these 4 teams in the losers bracket, and we're gonna see 2 of them there. So this really is at this point anybody's division, and it's gonna be really interesting to see just where this division alone goes, because I think most likely we're gonna see the winner of the tournament out of this division. I just feel it. Navi could do it, Nip could do it. Stralis has had too many semifinal stumbles to realistically place a bet on them to go to the finals, let alone actually win it. Like it's just so hard to pick a different team. Yeah, Virtus Pro's had a lot of success on lands, but even last major when they were having that success, they still got handled in the quarterfinals once they made it out of groups. Liquid, they've got JDM now. They've got Simple back for this tournament. This roster is as strong, as my opinion, as it's ever looked. The question is there enough familiarity? Has this team, has this 5-sub had enough time to be a team together that they're going to be on a good enough page that when it gets into the nitty-gritty times in the playoffs, that they're going to be able to play strong enough to get through those good teams like SK, like Fnatic, like G2, like Navi, like NIP. So, again, I honestly think our tournament winner is going to come out of this group. And now, as far as who I think is most likely to come out, oh, that's tough, because you're basically saying which 2 teams are going to have to qualify for the next major. Which 2 teams are going to make it out, and which 2 teams are going to get kicked to the curb. Because these are all teams that are good enough to be legend teams, to have that legend status going into a major. But only 2 teams of this group are actually going to achieve that level in Cologne. I think day 1 is going to determine. I think if SK can get revenge and FaZe can upset Fnatic on day 1, that is going to set up a very crazy day 2 in the losers bracket for this group. I think any chance that Fnatic gets into the losers bracket could be the end of them, because they did not have a very strong ECS finals. Now, again, like SK, they could come back in Cologne looking for a little bit of redemption, looking for a little bit of a better performance, and bring a better game, and just blow by FaZe. Because they have blown by FaZe in the last couple months. They were in the same division in the E-League, and I think in one of the maps that they played, Fnatic actually ended up 16-0ing FaZe Clan. I do not remember 100% for sure, so don't take my word on that, but I'm pretty sure in E-League, Fnatic did 16-0 FaZe Clan on the map. But if I remember correctly, the next map afterwards, FaZe then came and took a map off of Fnatic. So, again, these are 2 teams, depending on the map, could go either way. I want to say our 2 most likely out of here are going to be G2 and SK. I think whichever one loses that day 1 game between G2 and SK will be able to push through the losers bracket. And that seems like such a crazy prediction because Fnatic has been considered number 1 in the world for so long. To think that in this major, they could potentially, in this group, get kicked into challenger status where they would have to qualify for the next major. Like, it seems like such a out there idea, but I look at the strength of this division, I look at the strength of this group, and I can see it. I can believe it happening. I can honestly believe Fnatic losing two games here and not even making it through groups. That's how strong this group is. So that's going to set up some interesting stuff going forward, and it's going to be it's going to be a crazy tournament. I think this is going to be an incredible major, and I'm hugely looking forward to the games. So yeah, as far as the groups go, again, just to kind of recap, I believe most likely teams coming out of Group A are going to be Astralis and Gambit. Group B will be Navi and NIP, most likely. Group C, most likely Liquid and Virtus Pro. And at Group D, I think it will be SK and G2 Esports. I'm calling it right now. And that scares me, because I could end up being completely wrong. It could end up being FaZe and Fnatic. But I think, based upon how these teams are playing right now, leading into this major, that SK and G2 are the two teams that we will see make it through groups in Group D. Clone's own version of the Group of Death. And like I said, I think winner of the tournament will come out of this division. So most likely of those two, could be either one. It honestly could be either one. I can't even say it right now, because the way these two teams are playing right now and how well we know these teams can play, it is really up in the air. So with that, I'm giving you guys my opinions on the major and where we think we're going with it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like down below, and if you want to be bold, if you want to be very bold, feel free to let me know who you think is going to win down in the comment section down below, because I would love to hear that. I would love to hear who you think is going to win Cologne 2016. I will, of course, be covering, like I did for Columbus, I will be covering each and every day. At the end of every day, I will produce a video allowing people to catch up on all the stuff they may have missed from the major day that was. So, starting tomorrow, you will see more videos like this for these guys as they try and go for $500,000. But that's going to do it for me for now. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed. But I'm going to get out of here. Hope you guys enjoy the major, and I will see you guys, hopefully, in the next video. But for now, I'm out!